Hi guys, I'm Rhett, and today I'll show you through how I created this rock cave expanse. I'll take you through a few different techniques, how to create a rock and a rock wall. Hope you enjoy it. You'll need Cinema 4D and Octane Renderer. Here we go. First, I'm going to create a basic rock. Let's start with a sphere. Turn off render perfect. Let's take these segments right up to... I'll put the display on so you can see. Go from this to say 300 segments, heaps, and icosahedron. Now I'm putting up the segments because I know that I'm going to add a displacer to it, and the more segments the sphere has, the more the displacer will affect the sphere. So let's chuck this displacer on now. Drag it underneath the sphere, and good. So what I'm going to do now is I want to displace, and I will use a material for the displacement. So let me just drag this material onto the displacer. Let me choose the displacer, shading, channel, displacement, then drag this material into there. And now I want to add some displacement to the material, so I will turn off the reflectance. Just want the displacement really. Texture, layer, because I'm going to layer up. I'm going to click shader and then noise. Voila. See how the displacement noise is affecting our sphere. Let me go in and change this noise to Voronoi. Let's go quite huge, 1,000 global scale. And now we're getting sort of, a buckyball type of look. And I'm going to take the relative scale in the Y to 500%. And I can play around with the seed, but I won't do that too much now, because I'm also going to add a gradient. Now see how the gradient doesn't look like it's one sweeping one sweeping gradient from white to black. That is because if I select my texture, it's UV mapped, and the icosahedron maps the UVs in a certain way in this configuration. So I just need to tell it to be spherical. And bam, you can see it's displacing from complete black to complete white in the height. So obviously I don't want it, I just want it to displace and affect it a little bit to give it a rocky look. So what I'll do is I'll turn this turbulence up. Let's see. Yeah, maybe 35%. And what I'll do is I want a 50% gray. Okay, and then black on both sides. Something along the lines of that. See, what this has created is total 50% gray and then some black, and it's got some noise around it to create, some sort of stippling around, make a rocky edge. And then I want to put this on displacement, difference, and 50%. So I've got part of this noise down here, and I can alter that. And then I've got part of the gradient there running throughout it, a bit of a rocky seam. And then what I want to do is to bump this height up to about 50 centimeters, so it's really affected. So then I can go into my seed and just change the seed. And that's what's good about this process is you just get a, rocky asteroidy type of object, and you can just play around with the look. But what we're trying to just get is a base rock. And that's looking okay to me. Let's see. I might take the scale of this up as well. A bit more rocky. Okay. So let's just say that's my base rock. Yep. Let's just go with that. So now I've got my base rock. What I want to do is turn that into a wall of rocks. So what I will do is I'll create an object. So like a cave. I'll let me use a cone. So that's way too small. This is going to be the walls of my cave. So let's give it a height of, not going to be physically accurate, but I just want it quite big. Height of 7,500. I'm going to take the bottom to 3,500. And I want the top radius open a bit. Let's say 750. So if I zoom right out, there are my little rocks in there, and then that's going to be my cave. I'm going to put a plane, whoops, not a capsule. I'm going to put a plane down and make that much bigger, even bigger than that. Let's go 5,000 by 5,000, just so it's coming out the edges. And select my cone. I don't want caps on. I want to be able to see inside a bit. Cool. So I've got my ground plane just as a reference. I've got my cone. It doesn't need to be going all the way through the base, but I'm just going to leave it like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread my rocks across the cone, and I'm going to do that with an Octane Scatter. So I just wait for Octane to fire up. Let me just drop in a sun so we can see something happening. And what I want is my Octane Scatter. Let me just drag that down. So I want my scatter to go across the surface. I want that surface to be this cone. And I want my rock inside the Octane Scatter. There we go, it's populating it there, as we can see. And we obviously want it populated a lot more, but I probably don't want heaps, I just want them a lot bigger. So what I will do is I might find a camera position first. So let's go way inside. So I'm inside this thing. Let me just set up at least a default camera so I've got something to work from. 0. Let's zero out some of these features. That's fine. Where's my camera? There, it's looking down a bit. I want it looking up because I want it to be awe-inspiring, like you're looking up in a cave. I'm just going to select this so I can get the global move tools. And there we do. So we're looking on the side. That'll do me for now. Just want to see the rock cave. Also, while I'm looking at this, I usually do square Instagram image dimensions. So let me set that up 1200 by 1200. Octane render. Let me resend that. Okay. Let me just save this. Yep. Let's call it Rock Cave 3. Done a couple of these previously in my Instagram, you can check out. Okay, so let's go back to Octane Scatter where we're at. Where were we? So let's go for a count of 200. Pretty sparse. But now what I'm going to add is a MoGraph effect random. Select Octane Scatter, effectors, drag that random in so it's affecting it. Select random, and I don't want the position, but I want the scale to be affected. And let's go 10 on the X, see how it's scaling it randomly on the X. On the Y, maybe just double the size. And the Z, let's go huge. So now you can see we've populated this wall with some huge rocks, and we can just change the seed however we like, once again, to get any type of random looking wall in the background there. And what I like about this process is you can use displacement in Octane, but often you don't get these edges or rock-like things that fall back, curl back into themselves and give corners and more than 90-degree right angles. So this gives a chance to get those types of angles happening. So maybe I'll choose that one. Let me grab all of this, Option G, throw it into a null, and I'll rename it to wall. Sweet. Let me save that. Next, what I'll do is I want to create some sort of foreground interest. So I've got my background here. Now I want some objects to fill the foreground, and then I'll get the midground next. But first, let me just grab the pen tool. I'll go into my front view, and I'm just going to draw something which might be like a cave-like entrance. That'll do, just a line like that. I'm going to drop that into an extrude, and give it a big extrude, maybe 1200, maybe even a bit more. Let's make it 2000. And I can see it's just sort of covering this area, looking like I'm in the entrance area. All the camera is in the entrance area. And I can change that later. I might just leave that like that. And what I'm going to do is exactly the same process. I'm going to copy and paste that whole wall. I'm going to call this maybe arch. And select my Octane Scatter, and in the distribution tab, instead of the surface being the cone, I now want the surface to be this extrude. And bam, look at that. So I'm going to delete this cone. I'll drop in the extrude into our group, move the group down just to be a bit tidy, and I might change the scale of this random a little bit. Let's go maybe 4, 1, 8, just because I'm a little bit closer to this. And then once again, I can just randomly change the seed. Can always get carried away with that, so I won't. So let's create some ground interest or mid-ground interest. So this method, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to end up copying and pasting this group, but the object I want it to scatter around, I'll use a landscape. That's pretty low. Let me drag that up so we can see it. It's pretty small, so let me just double up these values. 200, 1200, so it's a lot bigger. And I want a plateau on this. You can see it's, give me a flat plateau. Let's go 45's fine. That might do me. I can always change it later. Let me take these segments right down. We don't need all these sexy segments because I'm going to cover it totally in the same way. So let's grab the wall, copy, paste. Let's call this floor. Open it up, select my Octane Scatter, once again drag in the landscape, and it's way too huge. Let me take the count down to 100 because this is just a small object, not as huge as the other ones obviously. It won't need as much to cover it. And then also take this scale of the random right down. I'm also going to select absolute scale so it doesn't give me sort of negative scale values. And let's go much smaller, 3, 1, 2. Let's play with the random there. Sweet, so now we've got rocks everywhere. Let me select the rotation of this random, and you can see if I, you can see the rocks rotating around there. And it's a really good way. I'll put it at 90. And I can visually just scale these and see the response and really just mess around with the type of look I'm going for. But for now, I'll just get something like that. I'll grab my landscape, bring it down, and I'm, you can drag the landscape to whatever size you want. I'm just going to drag it out to fill a bit of that area and drag it down. Okay, and once again, I'll tidy up, delete that cone, drop the floor in, drop it down there. Okay, so we've got our basic setup. What we want to do now is get some textures in and then some lighting after that. Let me save that again. So I'm just going to grab, I just Googled rock cave texture. You find something that you like. You might have textures of your own, but I'm going to select a glossy material for Octane, go into my node editor, drag in image texture, connect it to the diffuse, connect it to the bump, and then go and choose my texture. So let me use this limestone rock. And let's make some space, open these up. I'm going to drag this texture to each sphere. Sphere there and sphere there. Now my cave is covered with this limestone texture. I can see it. I think I want to use transform, connect the transform up, lock aspect ratio 1.5. I just want it a bit bigger. Now that we've got texture happening, let's put in a light. Select Octane Light. And the reason why I can't immediately see something happening, because for preview purposes, I was just happy to work in direct lighting ambient occlusion. But theoretically, this whole thing should be black because I'm in a cave. Let's put it on diffuse, and it goes all black. But if I just drag my light, now you can see this atmospheric light happening at the back there, lighting up the back wall. Let me rotate this around to face 90 degrees to the left. And let me just position it out of sight all the way over there, off camera. I don't want to do much to the light really. I like having one source of light if possible. I'm happy with the light there. Maybe I'll just bump up the power a little bit. Or a lot. I'm happy doing it a lot for now. Let's make it 800 power, because I know in the end I'm going to add some fog elements, and that will sort of dim down the light afterwards. Okay. So I might just... Direct lighting in Octane is obviously much quicker than path tracing, but I always end up using path tracing for my final render. So I like to just check how that's looking now and then. So not too dissimilar, so I'm happy going with that as it is. So we've got some foreground silhouette, we've got this archway happening. Let me select my archway. Yeah, I think I want to now select my light, have it coming across. You can see it's creating that archway shape, and then the mid-ground shape, and then seeing through to the background, which I like. But I also like it hitting a bit of this wall here. See it shining through. Okay. Now I think I'm ready to add in a person. Let me save this. So let me open up my 3D assets, people, open. I'll put a link in the description to where I got this person. Move this out of the way. I'm going to use my man Philip. Copy Philip. paste him in, press S to find where he is. He's huge. Choose the axis, center that. Where is he in this screen? Press S. Over there. Deselect the axis, take down the scale a bit, press E, move him to the center of my scene, move him to the center of my scene. There he is. Still massive. Let me take down his scale heaps. I just want him as a really small person to give an element of sort of scale to the scene, because rocks can be, you know, when you're looking at a rock, you cannot tell if it's a huge rock or a really small rock. But adding this person will give us the scale to the scene. And okay, there he is. Let's go a bit smaller still. Okay, that will do. I want to create a texture for him, so let's just go diffuse texture, double click, node editor, same again, drag image texture, diffuse, select the texture, go find his texture. I've got the wrong person. People, maps, and it's Philip. Then I can apply that and remove the old texture. Not that you're going to see much because he's just in silhouette pretty much. Let me save that, and now I will add a volume. Objects, Octane fog volume. Generate. I'm going to put the voxel size right up, otherwise my machine will crash when because I want to create a fog volume which covers this entire cave. So let's put that to 2000. Let's put the height at 2000 also. This vertical one's not, this X, I might put it 3000. Yeah, let's drag this up. That looks like it covers it, it's gone all dark. And the Z depth, let's put that at 3000. Let's do it. And my machine hasn't crashed, so I'm happy. I always get nervous at that stage. And it's gone all black because the fog volume is at 100%, and I'm going to turn the color of the fog up to white, and white on this one as well. And I'm going to take this right down to 0.03. Now we've got our scene back and the fog is doing its thing. Very atmospheric. Yeah, there's a hint of some God rays coming through here while it renders. And that's pretty much the process. It's going to take a while to render, but let me just step away while I mess around with, you know, the random values. If I can find some interesting, I'm pretty happy with how it is, but actually I'll go into path tracing. I know I'm going to end up rendering and path tracing. I'll take the GI clamp down to 4, diffuse depth down to 8, just so I can see what I'm working with. Let's go to the camera. What I want to select the camera, and I'm going to, because I know it can get pretty noisy with the fog, and especially when you use the glossy reflections of the material and it's bouncing around with just one really hot light. There's not much you can do, but you'll get a lot of hot pixels. So enable camera imager, and then I'm just going to drag. You can see it's affecting the render. Like you drag it all the way down, it's going to be quite a blurry image. So I want it just maybe at 0.7, and that's going to get rid of some of those hot pixels. I'm just going to select Philip and bring his scale down once again, just to give the scene a bit more scale. That'd probably do. And that's it. Let me just play with some of these random values and we'll be pretty much done. So after you've finished clicking random for about 2 hours, you hit render and you should end up with something like this. I hope this rock texture has helped you out in some projects. Let me know. Thanks. Bye.